Ascension messages. Questions and answers. The evolution of the soul. Attention consciousness. The soul evolves when you no longer fit into the consciousness of all those around you, and in this case, you make yourself available to create a new you, or a new species that reflects the evolution of your growth in consciousness, in awareness. This is what ascension is.
When you came into your body, it was because you were a fit with its frequency. Everything exists as a frequency match from the unlimited potential energy of the ether.
The soul has always been and will always be. There is no beginning, there is no end, everything just is. As set out above, when a group or individual fails to fit in with the accepted definitions for that individual or group, but instead favors something new or not seen and observed by that individual or group. Remember, a soul is a point of attention consciousness of its observer, and the complexity of that attention increases as it accumulates knowledge during its own temporal, time, perception of self. It is through experience that knowledge may flow from understanding that experience. Indeed, knowledge is not measured just by experience but is by the wisdom gained from that experience. A soul is never created, neither is a soul ever destroyed. It always has been and always will be, growing as it wishes and playing with its own creations. The concept of eternity is abstract to the soul that is designed to perceive itself as finite, and in 3D it perceives itself with a temporal, time, progression of unfolding linear time. Remember, we have shared before, time depends upon consciousness, the observer awareness. You are the one that grows yourself, and it is your adventure with your own ethics and values, your way, and it is only your own understanding of self that matters, not any others.
Learning, growing and evolving is the consciousness of being the soul. When you have a body of a certain race, it is because your soul has been compatible with that body, because it fulfills functions for you, because of the experiences that being that body gives you, and the points of view that come with the consciousness, or that body for your own personal expansion as a soul.
Question. So I choose a certain race, so that I can experience what it is to be that race, by living in the same reality with the same agreements?
Answer. When you enter that body, your soul, that is your consciousness, has a certain level of understanding and perception, in other words, a certain frequency, and that frequency is in turn compatible with other souls who also want to experience things in a similar way to you. This is called perception agreement, and it is this that forms a density that in turn forms a physical reality with its own rules and laws.
It is then that you live as a member of a particular race, whatever that may be. You experience a frequency of soul.
This is a level of consciousness based in terms of what you have learned, with the knowledge you have experienced, in your present and previous lives.
Question. What is the frequency of the soul, and how does it evolve?
Answer. The frequency of the soul, your perceptions make you compatible with having the same or similar interests of other beings, who are a species or race, because those experiences will serve you in your personal progress.
However, when you keep expanding in your knowledge, your consciousness and your perception in everything, you end up seeing that the race into which you incarnated eventually no longer satisfies the need for expansion of your soul. You then are no longer compatible with that species.
It is then that you decide to incarnate into another species or race, that is more in harmony with your expanding needs.
Alternatively, you simply remain in the astral if you see no race that corresponds with you, or, you simply form a new race.
The body with its DNA has a strong metaphysical connection from the ether, and this is a reflection in the lower densities of something much more complex in the higher densities. So, your consciousness, your soul progresses in understanding little by little. This understanding will be reflected as a process in your DNA, this we have explained before.
The body will reflect who you are, this is a constant.
This is why in part humans have, relatively speaking, such short incarnations, because humans progress quickly in 3D, at least most. And it is through this process that humans begin to have a strong incompatibility with their physical bodies, that take time to adapt to their evolving consciousness. It is because of the frequency differential of the biological body, and the consciousness of the soul working through the body that symptoms occur, that are often referred to as Ascension syndrome, that manifest in a variety of ways, including dizziness with nausea, similar to motion sickness, extreme fatigue, often accompanied with muscular paralysis and exhaustion, and for some people lethargy and depression.
This occurs because you are in a low density that is slow in manifesting.
Humans literally burn inside with so much voltage and with so much energy. It is part of the reason behind the aging process of the human body, although there are other reasons, such as toxins in the food, all forms of contamination and excessive gravity, apart from the group agreements on human biological longevity. You die and are born again, over and over again, because your previous body does not reflect you anymore. Your DNA is constantly mutating to reflect the new you into your more evolved new consciousness. If in one lifetime your DNA mutates enough, then there will be a measurable biological change that makes an individual no longer fit into that race or species, or the agreements of perception and experiences, this despite all the life experiences of the soul while belonging to the previous species. These changes of DNA within a species are what defines a species, and will first take place at the cellular level, then progress internally at the level of organ function, and this will then be reflected outside. The key is perception. It is who we are, where we go, where we look. Our perception defines the oscillations, or frequency of the molecules, in and around our bodies, because all is only potential energy.
As the soul evolves, it realizes that there is not much external to it. It is only the soul's perception, to what the soul decides to see. Again, this is according to your level of consciousness.
Question. Are you describing ascension into different densities here, or different experiences within the same density, or is the process the same?
Answer. When you can speed up or slow down the perception of time, when time defines a frequency, you can move through density frequencies, and manage these frequencies automatically. This will allow you to become more scalar or interdimensional, and be in the density of your choice. Everyone is like this, it is only that they may have forgotten, and they forget by their own choosing. They have forgotten this for their own personal growth and the experience the world brings them. This is how time and matter works, the manifestation of consciousness awareness.
In reality, there is no matter, it is just in your minds and a level in your consciousness of your frequency. Remembering and forgetting are on the same continuum. Without one, the other cannot exist. You need to understand both in order to understand everything better. This is duality. When you see everything as integrated, and the same while being aware of the separate pieces, and seeing the whole and the pieces simultaneously, you are experiencing integration and the whole.
Question. I am trying to capture the concept of surrendering the need to fight those who are trying to suppress our freedom, and moving beyond the agreements made to experience these limitations.
Answer.
With the concept of before and living a life as a material biological body fighting evil with a sword in hand, this is done to understand that you do not need to fight anymore, understanding that part of the fight is because you simultaneously remember that you have had both experiences, and you understand the apparent limitation of those perceptions, with the frustrations and feelings of confinement and limitations of previous incarnations. With this understanding, you become more aware of yourself, and the unlimited perception of who you are on the other extreme of this continuum.
We have all died, countless times, infinite times, and by this definition, outside of any time, this is how it is. At the same time, we are always dying somewhere in a timeline, and we are always being born somewhere in another timeline. This is how all beings are with a soul, with a consciousness. This is how the universe works.
To understand how time works is the key to manipulate matter and density.
Trying to understand time as something external ties you into a perceptual awareness that limits frequency consciousness of you, the observer. Understanding that everything is completely frequencies, and that frequencies cannot be measured without a time frame. Therefore, without a time frame there is no frequency. There is no energy at a frequency that is far from a time measurement frame. That time frame is only your perception itself. So, if time is only a reflection of yourself, your mind, your consciousness altering your frequency at will, you can alter time according to your perception, and you can then move around the cosmos at will. This is the same as supraluminar flight in starships, using precise mathematical models. using holographic computers that manipulate frequency augmentation of its engines, as discussed before. Your thoughts can imagine this internally, and the external technologies are there only to show you what is possible by your own consciousness. Thoughts create.
This is how everything works.
This is how all souls are. Remember, you will not be your future in some time frame, you are already your future, it is just that you have forgotten this because you wanted to experience this.
It is from Source that you create, and from there you are everything. You could say that the degree of distance or closeness to Source depends upon your degree of perceiving things, and that in turn is dependent upon how much you remember. And how much you remember is dependent on the density you choose to see. You are all star beings and you are Source itself, that is what you are.
You do not need to remember this, you just know it and then you can proceed from there. What you feel, what you imagine, what you create in your mind and in your heart, just is. This is how everything works. Imagination is everything, it is not empty fantasy, it is creation of universes. We are here to help make you see how great you are, remind you of who you are. We are bringing 3D and 5D here, and the councils of the 5D Federation of Planets, that are working to awaken humanity by causing everything you see as revolutions, and the destruction of old paradigms, that will in turn bring forward integration with new more positive things, by bringing and expanding higher concepts, and making those concepts more understandable to humans who are now starting to wake up. These concepts and messages are made so that they are within everyone's reach. This is what we are doing, awakening you to who you really are.
Question. Thank you, I think I've got it. The star seeds are the 5D Federation. From above, the 5D Federation has its ideas on how to wake up humanity, and the star seeds are here on the ground mentoring both the awakening souls and the 5D Federation. I can see that the star seeds are here to mentor the changes their way from their direct experience from 3D. I've got it.
Answer. The 5D Federation does not control the way you think, the Federation only modulates the creations of the human mind, Illuminati, Cabal, etc., and do not want to end up destroying the earth while humans are in the process of learning not to manifest these things for themselves. Humans need the stimulation that comes from being in trouble, the stimulus to respond and solve their own creations.
Only with contrast of what they do not want will they be able to appreciate what they do want for themselves. The Cabal works the way it does because humans have permitted them to do so. In some ways agreeing to whatever the Cabal is doing.
That is why the Cabal is always telling the people what they will do through movies, series, songs, media and so on.
The Cabal is the result of what vibrationally people want. Humans allow the Cabal to exist and function. This is what humans want to experience as a collective.
Everything on Earth today is in a huge mess, and this is part of the process.
The Cabal is pushing senseless orders and directives without really trying to hide their agendas, who are already in despair, and are no longer interested in hiding that these occurrences are false flags.
The despair, disorder and carelessness on the part of the Cabal will eventually bring them to their final defeat, and bring about the awakening of the masses. And those who choose to awaken will do so, and those who want to continue experiencing limitation with perceptual agreements will continue until such times and events occur, that no longer serve their growth and awareness potential through these contrasts. Tawana, Tawa, adventure with joy, with all its multiple meanings.